Ready to go?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Alderman Volkart.
Here.
Alderman Blank.
Here.
Alderman Old.
Here.
Alderman Bell is absent. Alderman Wilson.
Here.
And Alderman Lewis.
Here.
Can I get a motion to approve August 15th, 2023 meeting minutes, please?
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Have a second, please.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to special items, see none. Appointments to boards and commissions, none. Scheduled public comments, I have none. Just a reminder, make sure you get your public comments into the city clerk the Wednesday before the meeting, please. Public hearing, none. Introductions and first reading, see, have none. Moving on to old business. Council Bill number 1453, an ordinance to change the zoning of a parcel of land from R1, single family, to L1, light industrial, Forest Park, phase 3.
Okay, in your packets, there was a city staff opinion, a little note there, and I'm gonna preface both of the items with this. And it's just for the city staff opinion, nothing else in either of the items has changed. It's second reading. While conducting research for other projects, staff discovered section 11.205-9 of our subdivision regulations that was not applied to Forest Park Phase 3 during the initial engineering review. In light of this code section, staff cannot recommend approval of the rezoning request or preliminary plat, as both would be in conflict with these requirements. So that was discovered, that's on me. I discovered this section while looking for another one, and the section basically reads, subdivisions intended for commercial or industrial use shall have access to a collector street, but shall not have direct access to any residential collector street under any circumstances, except in the case of appropriately separated planned retail centers. Forest Park Phase 3 conflicts with this section of the city code due to the proposed light industrial zone properties having direct access to Yellowstone Drive and Ashland Drive, both of which would be classified as residential collectors. Both the owner, Corey Myers, and his engineers have been informed of this discovery, and staff has made recommendations to address the conflict in this code. Additionally, there was also included in the packet a letter from the Southern Boone Fire Protection District Fire Marshal Mike Bauer about the remote access and the requirements of Appendix D of the 2018 International Fire Code. Now, that has come up a few times in the past. That's nothing new. But what is new is the code section 11.205-9 in our city code. So everything else in the original staff report is the same. If you have any questions on it.
Can you go into more detail on how you would define a collector street?
They're defined or not very well defined, but in city planning. So they're defined by size and what amount of traffic are on them. But being an older section that Kimberly and Stacy Drive are, but Yellowstone is a newer street that goes up through Forest Park Phase 1. But it's purely residential.
What's Salters? Is that commercial?
Yes, it is.
That's the same street.
Yes, but
Okay.
it wouldn't have access through, I mean, it has access, but
That's the same street.
its direct route wouldn't be down Kimberly.
It is.
Perry Avenue.
No, you can't get access to that lot from Perry Avenue. It comes off the same street.
It comes off Liberty.
Liberty.
Yeah,
No,
Liberty Lane,
Liberty's-
which is the exit
No,
off 63.
it comes off the same street that what we're talking about.
Off Yields.
Off the Stacy.
It's,
Or is it Kimberly?
well, we say it's at the corner of Ashley and Perry.
Yeah.
Right?
It's the same street that you're saying I can't have it, it's the same access.
So you would be coming through the residential area to get to the industrial zone.
The same spot that Salters is at?
Yes.
Okay,
But to access Salters, you're coming from Highway 63 right now. You're turning onto Liberty.
okay, where are you coming to access mine?
Down Kimberly through the residential area.
The same thing it's the same spot you access Salters.
I think just what he's asking is clarification for, when you say collector street, are you talking about the whole street? Like if it's on that street, is it excluded? Because they would be on the same
Well,
street.
that is not well defined. But, I mean, our interpretation is if you're using a residential street to get to your business
The same
and going past the residential houses.
So
which
the,
is apartments.
so the difference though is that you're saying that the corner of Ashley and Perry, although Ashley is the access road because it's on the far western end
Correct.
near Perry, that you're saying that it's not.
It's not going past the houses. And we don't know
What houses? The apartments?
the duplexes.
Okay.
Lauren, to answer your question, a collector is defined as a street that conveys traffic from minor streets to arterials. So in this instance, your arterials are going to be Perry and Route Y. Your collectors are everything that's ferrying that traffic to those destinations.
What's Y? Is that residential?
Route wise.
No, the
Arterial
Y, YMCA. Isn't
The
that going all?
YMCA is a business.
Yeah, but they're coming off Main Street, that's all residential down there.
No, it's
A lot
not.
of it.
There's commercial as well as residential.
Yeah. But y'all agree with that, there is residential and commercial.
So what's the remedy?
The remedy was to get access through, I mean, there's no maps up here, but to get access through Rankin's property straight to Perry Avenue from that development.
This code section aside, the fire department is not going to grant development of this property without a secondary access. So either way, we're gonna have to figure out a solution for access to this property.
Now,
Can I
we
address-
had a, go ahead.
Can I address some point? Corey Berthold, Engineering Surveys and Services. Just to address a few of the items. The code section that was pointed out here speaks about subdivision and subdivision requiring these things. And just to reiterate, this is a process. This is the preliminary plat for a subdivision, but it is not the final subdivision of the property. And it's also the rezoning for the property, just the initial steps. It's understood, as we talked about last time, that this property will need a second point of access before it can be fully developed. You know, I think it would be in the board's purview to be able to restrict what can be developed on this property until that second point of access is provided. Based on that code, you know, I think it's fair to say that the commercial and industrial can't necessarily develop until that second point of access is provided. But the residential that we're proposing along the north side and the zoning, I think you can proceed with without, and to be fair, this came up at the very last minute. We've already been through several meetings with this, so we didn't have a lot of time to prepare a response here. But again, what's being proposed here is a preliminary plat and rezoning. It's not the final subdivision, it's not the final development plans for this property. So in the city code where it states that a subdivision cannot have access, This isn't the final subdivision. This will be done in phases to where probably the initial phase that happens will be the residential that connects to the residential street to the north that is on Ashley Drive is zoned R3, it's duplex housing. So it would be R3 accessing R3. The fire code requirements, as I stated in the last meeting, it's understood that as this property develops, there will come a point where it's required that we have a second point of access. That is not currently the case. Just with this preliminary plat and with the rezoning, it doesn't kick in a requirement for a second point of access. The property owner, or the developer could develop multiple units on the residential property with one point of access. The point in the fire code that it kicks over to having 2 points of access would be 100 units on that multi-family property. There's also stipulations in that fire code about where commercial would kick into. Commercial would be anything over 62,000 square feet would have to have a second point of access. So it's not automatic that this property has to have a second point of access. There's portions of this and a phase of this that can be developed before it has that second point of access. And then there's multiple other exceptions in there for that second point of access. If you sprinkle the building, if you do other things, you can not have that second point of access. So again, this is preliminary plat and rezoning. It's not the final subdivision. The city and the board will have another opportunity to review and approve any development plans and the final subdivisions for this property.
So, Kyle or Darren or whatever, so my question is that these are two separate items, and technically we're just talking about the zoning right now. And the zoning isn't in any way limited, inhibited, et cetera, by this section that was found, correct? Because it's really just the final plat.
Correct.
Okay. So, so I'd like to make a motion that we just address or vote on the actual zoning instead of, before we get too far in the weeds on the part that doesn't apply to the zoning itself.
I'm in the process of trying to get that access through Rankin. So I really don't have a problem with just going on, like you said, the zoning. I don't really have a problem with that.
So there's a motion for that. Is there a second?
Yeah, second.
Is that a motion to approve, deny, whatever?
Oh, a motion to vote on the zoning request itself and not discuss the plat, right? So,
We have a motion to approve the second reading then?
sure.
Have a second.
Second.
All right, call vote. Alderman Bogart?
Aye.
Alderman Plank? Nay. Alderman O?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Nay.
And Alderman Lewis?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-2. Moving on to Council Bill number 1454, an ordinance approving Forest Park plat number 3.
All right, again, this is all the same issues as the rezoning acceptance.
You said it's 3-2,
Yes, ma'am.
does that make the motion,
So it's not an ordinance.
yeah, it is. Didn't they just vote on the ordinance?
Oh,
It's a second reading.
excuse me. That's right, it fails. You need 4 affirmative votes. Thank you. Sorry, the ordinance. It says,
They worded it different, they just said make a motion.
no, you're
for the
fine.
zoning.
I'm glad you caught it.
It's-
You're right.
yeah.
You have to have 4 regardless of how many people are here.
And the mayor only votes in case of a tie.
I'm sorry?
Mayor only votes in case of a tie.
And you can't have a tie unless you have everybody vote. So in light of the fact that it's failed, so it will not be rezoned.
We wouldn't address the second part, right?
Right. But I don't imagine there's much, you need the rezoning for the plat to be valid, yes? You can't do what they propose as it's zoned.
That's
So-
without the zoning. That's the procedure.
I would, you can either vote it down or, yeah.
I would say a motion to deny it. If you vote to table it, we'll have to bring it back up.
Need a motion to deny or table?
I'd like to make a motion to table until we have a full board to.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Lewis?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderman Old?
Aye.
Alderman Plank?
Nay.
And Alderman Bocart?
Aye.
4-1.
If when we bring that back up, do we go back to the,
Both sections?
You could conceivably put it back on the agenda and first and second read the ordinance again.
because I guess there's no point in doing one without the other, but it's also.
You could reconsider the previous.
Also, that's right.
So Council Bill 1445 will go through.
Correct.
Moving on to new business, a resolution
And thank you
authorizing.
again, Darrell.
A resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a declaration of deed restrictions for a community park relating to the LWCF grant. Staff report.
So the LWCF grant is concluded. The final reimbursement was received. So we're doing some closeout paperwork. The Department of Natural Resources requires the enclosed deed be signed and recorded in order to close out the LWCF grant for the ball field project. The ball field is completed. As part of the closeout paperwork, the Department of Natural Resources requires that we record a deed for the entire property that was submitted for the grant, and that would be the entire 11 acres of the park, which is 3 separate parcels. The deed document required is from the Missouri State Parks. The deed basically puts restrictions on what the property can be used for and the length of time the city must maintain said property. Additionally, should the park board decide to utilize any other grant programs in the future, the Missouri State Parks, from the Missouri State Parks, they will not be required to submit a separate deed for each project. This will cover all future grant projects with the Missouri State Parks. We're asking for authorization to allow the mayor to sign said deed so it can be recorded at the Boone County Recorder's Office and submitted to the Department of Natural Resources. I just want to explain a little bit here. When this grant was first gone after, wasn't here, so I don't know what the expectations were of the board at the time, but the entire park was placed in the grant. The park is parceled off into 3 separate parcels. So just not the ball field was put in there. The deed requires the city maintain and own the park for 50 years. So just so you know, that was part of the grant obligation.
Any questions?
Make a motion, we approve.
Can I have a second?
One second.
Alderman Bocart?
Aye.
Alderman Plank?
Aye.
Alderman Old?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderman Lewis?
Aye.
Moving on, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a change order number 1 to M&M Landscaping and Construction LLC contract for the South Main Street Waterline and Resurfacing Project.
Mr. Mayor, members of the board, before you this evening is change order number 1 for the South Main Street Waterline Resurfacing Project. In efforts to, keep the contractor working, this change order includes a multitude of changes that are needed across several budget lines to include water, stormwater, sewer, and streets. I will speak quickly about the stormwater, sewer, and streets change orders, and then Stephen Lynn with Allstate Consultants, the consultant on the project, he is here to answer any questions regarding the water line related change order items. With this project, there are several culverts were found to be deficient and have to be replaced. So that we included in this change order are the replacement of multiple culverts at various intersections along South Main and the side streets thereof. There's repairs to an existing sidewalk that will have to occur because of one of those culverts, and then brings that sidewalk into ADA compliance. That will be funded through the street repairs portion of the budget. Sewer, there are 8 manholes on South Main Street between Broadway and South Henry Clay, all of which have to be raised in varying heights from 2 inches to 16 inches to bring them up flush with the new road surface. So those are all items that we had asked the contractor to include in this change order proposal. Additionally, there is a existing sewer lateral at a house at the corner of Sappington and South Main Street that was damaged during 2019 during the sidewalk project. That contractor did not utilize proper bedding techniques and measures, and ultimately it has caused the lateral to settle approximately 1.5 inches, which is below a stormwater box. So the best course of action is to abandon that existing lateral, cap it off, and provide an alternate lateral to connect to the sewer main for that resident. As that was a city project that had 0 warranty, as it was a MoDOT TAP grant funded project, we're now on the hook for it. One other thing I'll touch on real quick, it's getting funded out of water capital expenditures, is an increase in the largest portion of this change order, the increase to street repairs. Laurel and Wilson, over the years, had a multitude of water line leaks and issues that had to be addressed. And over the course of time, because of that, those streets are in dire need of resurfacing. So this was an opportune time to add that in as a possible, as a change order item to get that entire section fixed. Save for Sappington Drive, which my crews will be going out and patching once our cold planer head arrives later this month.
Question for James?
How much longer is the project going to take?
So I spoke with Don Fisher from Allstate today regarding that, and we anticipate, they made the connections today for the YMCA and the Magic Car Wash. I believe those are the 2 largest connections left to be completed. They have a little bit of work left for water lines along Laurel and Wilson. But the water line, Curdy, correct me if I'm wrong, the water line is complete for South Main, correct?
2 more tie-ins.
There's 2 more tie-ins, excuse me.
But you're on the new water line now.
Okay.
Ideally, depending on if this change order is approved or not, they will need to do some work for particularly the sewer line work on South Main Street and the stormwater work before they can begin paving. So I would say a conservative estimate would be 2 to 4 weeks, weather dependent, and multitude of other factors.
Mike, I have a question. Would you mind going over that sewer lateral issue again?
Sure. So in 2019, the city had constructed the South Main sidewalk as part of a TAP grant project. Relatively familiar with it. When I came into my role, the project was already underway, but where that sidewalk went, there was an existing sewer lateral for one of the residences. It was a clay line, and as part of the excavation, that company, RC Contracting, replaced that section that was gonna be under the new stormwater box. But from what was explained to me, the bedding techniques and materials used were not sufficient to prevent settling. So as that stormwater box went in, it settled somewhat and pushed that PVC sleeve down approximately 1.5 inches, therefore creating possible blockage on that sewer lateral.
Then the raising of the sewer manholes in the street, typically that would be something that would be accounted for in the planning bid.
So part of the issue with that was that the 4 of the manholes were just recently discovered, as they were not at the existing height. The sewer manhole raising for the 4 known was not included in the bid as a simple oversight. We anticipated that there was just gonna be a 2-inch riser ring for 4 separate manholes. The other 4 were a surprise after the fact that we figured out had to be domed and brought up to surface.
Were those manholes covered by the asphalt?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. They've been covered by 16 inches of manhole for quite a while. They're actually in really good shape, so we just have to put domes on them. But we do anticipate completing lining of all those sewer manholes later this fiscal year. That was part of our budget for the year, was to pick out X number of manholes and line them, and South Main Street seems like a good candidate.
Yeah, I guess, I'm just concerned a little bit about scope defense, that, it's a typical way that the contractors will try to make their money on projects, is they may come in with the lowest bid, and they'll come back and just change order you to death, and then some of these items seem like, maybe it's a little bit of that, where it's, maybe a little bit more defensive. The actual scope and the plans, and honestly speaking, from an engineer's perspective, we ended up actually just paying for a manhole riser we were the engineer on the project and didn't appropriately call for it to be raised. So we ended up footing the bill for that riser because we didn't call for it in the plans. So having good plans and having good contractors, you might take the cheapest bid up front, but pay for it at the end.
Any questions or concerns? Again, I have Stephen Lynn here from Allstate Consultants that can discuss the various water change orders. You'll notice in the attached change order document, items 7 and 8. Or excuse me, 5 and 6. I've got the wrong copy in front of me.
Is it okay if we have him speak to that?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. Stephen Lynn with Allstate Consultants. So just to go over kind of briefly on the items for the change order. Item number 5 we're adding basically an 8-inch valve and a 6-inch valve. This kind of arose during constructability, pressure testing, the water lines. Without these valves, basically the contractor would have had to fill the lines, test them, and then basically when he made his final connections, he would have had to drain the lines. So we didn't want to waste all that water, so we kind of added these 2 extra valves. The next item was a fire hydrant set. This was missed on the bid form. We showed it on the plans, so we were just adding this fire hydrant on the change order to correct that. The next item is a 3/4 inch polyethylene service line. This is replacing additional service line at Watson Court. Basically on our plans, we had just showed basically a simple tie-in, roughly 20 feet. So when construction started, Curtis indicated that he would like to replace some additional old line that was basically leaking, and the city was having issues. And the next set of items, basically the 6-inch pipe fittings, and there's a 4-inch gate valve and some 4-inch fittings. Basically, this is for setting up a future service for the Main Street car wash. It was, Curtis had mentioned that the owner of the property was doing away with the car wash and going to redevelop that property and potentially put in residential or mixed residential units there. So this allowed to set up a future connection, and essentially it would save the developer from tearing up the new street when making a new connection to the water line. So those are primarily the water system change order items.
Was that item 628 and 629?
It would be item 6.23 to 6.28 would be for the future.
For the future.
Setup for the Main Street car wash. Any questions or?
Alright, can I get a motion to approve, thank you, sir. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a change order number 1 for M&M Landscaping and Construction LLC, contract for South Main Street water line and resurfacing project?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Alderman Lewis?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
No.
Alderman Old?
Aye.
Alderman Plank?
Aye.
And Alderman Bogart?
Aye.
Alright, moving on to reports. Mayor report, just a couple of things. Grass on Broadway, in front of the Blue Rooster and all this, between the park and
The sidewalks.
the sidewalk, yeah. Can we get some Roundup or something? And what would it take to restripe that section of parking?
On the parking side?
Yeah.
I can get some information on that and get back to you.
And then I wanna put the handicapped versus regular parking ratio. And then, he's already left, but what can we do with the grass behind the old Skyline Cafe?
He's supposed to be working on that. I already talked to him about it.
And then last but not least, had a walkthrough on Yummy-O's. I don't know if you've had a chance to go through it, Darren.
I'm supposed to go through this week.
Okay, it's really nice, they're getting the mural put up, the floors are down, walls are painted, baseboards going up, so they look to be open soon, so. That's my report. City administrator report.
Couple things. Steal some thunder from Darla, but she will be on vacation from the 9th through the 25th. In case anybody needs anything from her before then. And just as a reminder, Fall Festival is this Saturday from 9 to 4. Car show is 9 to 1, and they added that best dressed dog contest. Registration at 10:30 with judging at 11.
City attorney report.
The MML annual meeting is coming up. It's on Sunday, the 10th through Tuesday. My firm has 2 booths. The entire firm will be there running around. So if you're up in Kansas City for that, the Sheraton, please do drop by and say hello. We'll give you all some swag. I'm speaking on Tuesday on the Officers' Bill of Rights.
Police chief monthly report.
Yes, sir. Nothing exciting there. You all should have a copy of it, right? To get to you. Wasn't in the packet because close to the end of the month, but there it is. Mostly self-explanatory. Unless there's questions, I'd be glad to do anything. Got the total activities through that were logged through joint communications is 563. Is that right? 561. And then there's kind of a breakdown there.
Any questions for the chief? Sound good, sir?
Thank you.
Fantastic report.
Yeah, that's all.
Smooth.
Very efficient.
Work on all day.
Moving on to the board of aldermen. Alderman Bogart.
No report.
Alderman Plank.
Yes. I did take a complaint from a resident, in regards to, they received notice, this is in regards to the Boone Square, the new Boone Square, that they got to, there's several mailboxes there along Henry Clay, for residents along Redbud, some of the residents. So they've been notified by the post office that they have to relocate those mailboxes off that property. So, I mean, it's an inconvenience for them.
They're
So,
relocating it from Henry Clay to Redbud.
yeah,
The residents on
that's
the
right.
isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to explain, yeah.
Would that be better for them?
It'd be more convenient, yes, but I think there's some work involved and probably some expense involved.
There's no expense to them, so
Yeah.
Dave's moving that as part of the project. I don't know if that was conveyed or not, but.
I don't know if it has been conveyed, because this particular residents felt like they were notified by the post office, but I don't think they've received any correspondence from the owner. That's all I got.
Alderman Old.
I was going to remind everybody about the Fall Festival.
Good
Kyler.
So, no report.
No report.
Alderman Wilson,
No report.
and Alderman Lewis.
No report.
All right. Moving on to general comments from the public. Hearing none. Seeing none. All right. I get a motion to go into closed session to talk to statute 610.021, articles 3 and 1. I get a motion to go into closed session. And a second?
Second.
Roll call or Alderman? Alderman Lockhart?
Aye.
Alderman Plank?
Aye.
Alderman Bell? Alderman Oak, sorry.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
And Alderman Lewis.
Aye.
Hey, you guys vote? At this time, we have nothing to report. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sir?